I've been up since 4 a.m. and I thought I might kick off with that because I couldn't sleep. So I finished reading a book. I don't know if you've read the book, Ethan Mollick book, Co-Intelligence. Have you heard of that?
No, tell me.
Yeah, it's interesting. So he's not necessarily a technical person in that, but he's a professor at Wharton, has a really good blog as well, talking about AI and otherwise. And so, yeah, he's written this book all about how AI is impacting us. So just even the use cases, some of the implications around the ethical use of AI, practical applications of it, and equally looking at, different scenarios. And so are we at peak AI usage now? Is it going to be that, or is it going to be, it's going to get to a certain level and augment, be our sort of co-pilot, or he has this, what's the word when we're cyborg? So we have like a cyborg, like, are we all going to be cyborgs where everything is augmented by what we're doing, and we have an AI that's working with us?
Like a sixth sense?
Yeah, but that practical application of it and starting to look at particular use cases, and that's what I enjoyed. So when I couldn't sleep at 4, I kind of finished off reading that book, and so it's fresh in my mind. I think it's a great read, and equally giving you some skills and maybe where you can hone how you look at it. So I think it's great from looking at the application of AI, where we could be going, the ethics around it. And so, yeah, that's where my sort of morning started. Like I say, to me, it's really exciting to see that and start to think about where we're going. We're doing that, but seeing, I think it's a really good for people out there who haven't, who maybe want to think about that a bit more. I think it's a great book to look at. One of the key things that I liked in the book as well was about how, he talks about having different characters or agents for your own use. So you might have someone who's a researcher. So for us as a VC firm, we'll have someone who's a researcher. We'll have someone who's a critique, and someone who's just takes on these different roles and prompt engineering them right now. And I think this is what we're starting to see. We all have different businesses where we'll adopt each one of these characters that come into our life. And it might be in work, and it might be personal. You might have someone who's a coach, or someone who's a counselor, someone who's maybe a girlfriend. We've talked about all that, boyfriend, whatever you want to have. But I think this is what I think is interesting. We're going to, I think we can work and live having these different characters in our lives that we'll interact with. So I think it's pretty cool and scary at the same time. And equally, is this going to take over, or is this going to just be where we are looking at those different scenarios? And for us as investors, we have to think that way, about what are those various scenarios into the future. And so I'm kind of more at the exponential end, where this will take over a lot of what we do. But, going to those doomsday scenarios as much as the, augmentation or cyborg sort of side. So I reckon everyone has a look at it.
We put a link in the description.
Cool. What did you want to talk about, Dror, today?
I saw a video of a car training for self-driving in India, and I thought it was hilarious. You should check it out.
Can we watch it? Let's just watch it and talk about it. Why don't you share it? Can you share it and we watch it? I'd love to give my India perspective, having been there.
Yeah, that's what they say India is ideal for testing self-driving cars, and they have a video of this. Imagine a self-driving car in these conditions.
Well, it's a great test bed, isn't it?
It's being passed. Look at this.
Jeez.
Anyway, you can imagine where this is. So they're saying the two things I like is that the Indian traffic that makes it challenging is that it's both stochastic and adversarial, which is a simple term, means that road conditions and driver behavior are almost entirely unpredictable, and that other road users are more likely to play chicken than give way. I thought about it, think about training AI on basically playing chicken with humans. I mean, does that sound to you like a strategy that's going to work? Does that seem like a problem that's solvable? Having an AI playing chicken with humans, where do you think is that going to end?
Well, I think this is always an interesting thing, and whether you talk about that, what is the tipping point where it's acceptable? So playing chicken is always going to be dangerous. So that's what happens right now in India. I've been to India many times, and every animal on the road is there, and any kind of scenario can happen. So I think, to be honest, if it can work there, it will work most places. Now, it's not going to be perfect. So I think this is always a question we have around this is, what is that tipping point for us to go, it's acceptable to have casualties and fatalities where it's significantly better than humans? Now, I think this is the thing, is we're putting a different standard when it comes to AI.
But we don't have a legal system. We have the legal system that, if you did a car accident, you're responsible. If you're responsible and you're at fault, you suffer the consequences. If you take a ride in a self-riding car and there is a car accident, who's at fault? I think that we can learn from history something. And that's my little contrarian, not prediction, but like contrarian commentary, is that I can give you an example of autonomous, semi-autonomous, almost fully autonomous transportation system that was introduced and thrived, but it necessitates complete different infrastructure that is separate to the roads where people and cars and horses and pedestrians go. And of course, it's called the trains. And in order to have trains in a country, we have train-specific infrastructure. We don't drive the trains on the roads with the cows and the chickens and the pedestrians. So I think my naive interpretation is that if you want self-driving cars, you will need like roads for them, specific roads that they only can go in. And I think that's kind of where it's going to end. It's going to have like infrastructure that's dedicated for this type of cars, and it's not going to be a self-driving car in the middle of roads like that in a road. I mean, this is a demonstration. I just don't see it. And I think the problem is kind of legal. So when you cross the road, you pay attention to this. You typically wait for a visual cue from the eyes of the person who's driving the car heading towards you. And then you tell me what happened if that is a black car that can't see that there's anything inside. How does that feel? It feels horrible. It feels scary, and you don't want to cross the road. So that is a transformation that I don't think people pay attention to. They think solving self-driving is a technical challenge. I think solving self-driving is a legal, societal acceptance challenge.
Yeah, no, look, look, what you're saying is Waymo. Basically, we're going to have these areas where you can drive, like in the US. Look, that's the Waymo approach. And then you have the Tesla approach. And I think this is really interesting. So Tesla's using all the data it has and building on that massive amount of and we both have those cars in terms of training data to then try and tackle self-driving. Now, some would argue in the way Waymo works right now, there's still got an operator at the back end of it, and other people would argue, well, in Tesla, it's not really self-driving at all because you're taking over. But the question is, they have two different approaches to solving that same problem. Now, the big question for me is to go, will we ever get to a stage where, for example, the Tesla approach will work in more scenarios than the Waymo approach, and whether the legislation will say you have to only drive in these areas using self-driving or autonomous modes, or can we expand that out? And so I sort of feel like if the data around Tesla is it's a lot safer than driving a normal car, and you can't just say in a particular area.
It's not about safety. It's like you can prove till the cows come home, you can prove that Tesla will cause less car accidents, and still society will say, we don't care, we don't want to run over by a robot. It's like, you need to take two cases to pass a legislation that screw the whole thing up. So my skeptic contrary old man prediction here is that in order to see like self-driving cars take over for real, it will be designated lanes in designated maybe areas, or maybe unique infrastructure, something that basically puts a barrier between the humans and that technology, much like the way it was with trains. That's kind of high level expectation. Now the specifics, I can't tell you exactly what does it look like, but I can tell you that there's places it makes sense to drive. Highways in designated lanes, you can see that. Some towns, you can see that. But the question is this: are we talking about a mode where I'm still in the driving seat looking at the road and I'm responsible? Because that's not what we're talking about when you talk about self-driving, right?
So look, there's those levels of autonomy, right? So if you look at Tesla, still only level 2. I think Waymo is level 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly now what that is. And level 5 is fully autonomous. No one doing anything. The question is, the question that you have is, will we get to level 5 autonomy? I think there's a pathway.
We will do it, but to level 5 will require infrastructure upgrade, like separated infrastructure.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing that we're talking about here is this isn't just about autonomy in driving. This is going to be autonomy maybe in robots doing parts of it, other things in our lives, drones doing certain things in our life. Whatever it will be, that's being built out. And I think AI, in terms of what we're talking about, I think AI will. There's going to have to be a lot of legislation that doesn't exist is being formulated. That was interesting in the book that I was talking about right now, saying, is the legislation going to stop? That was one of the scenarios saying that will hold AI back as legislation. But people we still don't even have basic legislation. So in fact, technology is moving way faster than the law. And so I think in these cases, it's being held back by the law, but also people are trying to make sure the safety is there. And I get it.
Look at energy. Why don't we have a nuclear powered car? Technically speaking, if technology wasn't regulated by law, you could expect 50 years of R&D to make nuclear reactor safer, smaller, etc. But there was a recognition that this technology is anywhere but safe. As a result, there's a very clear, set of people that can do R&D on it, and as a result, there's not a lot of development. So I think it gives us a lesson to the power of law and regulation in regulating technology. People says AI is different. I kind of agree and disagree, and it is different, but it's not a fundamental difference. Like we regulate food, we regulate what food we can buy. We will regulate what technology we can, buy as well. Let's move on. I've got something for you.
All right, let's go.
How do you feel about AI voice agents?
Yeah, look, I think it's a logical progression. And if you looked at, the OpenAI's 4.0, I felt like, besides all the Scarlet Gate, things around Scarlett Johansson's voice being replicated, I feel like it's going to become reasonably normal. I think the question will start to become is, once again, we come back to legislation. Will I have to tell people that it's not a human? Because I think that's going to become indistinguishable voice and video. So I don't have an issue with it.
Let me share with you what A16Z, our friends in A16Z are saying. So first of all, interesting new app called Gamma.app. Have you heard of Gamma?
I have.
So there's two messages. The phrase "the medium is the message." This is an interesting presentation, but the interesting bit is not just the content of presentation, but also the tool they use. So I'll touch both things. So first of all, what are we seeing here? A presentation by A16Z consumer guys about will AI voice agents, what's their thesis, will they take, what they believe in, etc. So it's an interesting, thought pieces designed for them to attract, of course, founders with interesting ideas. I buy the thesis. The time to reinvent the phone call. No human will ever again have to make a call. Thanks to generative AI, humans will spend time on the phone only when a call has value to them. Now, I don't personally waste too much time in my life on phone calls. I will then though share that over the weekend, my brother-in-law had to move energy provider from one energy provider to another. And seriously, you need to get a medal for this. It's like 2 hours on the phone. You have to bring 17 different types of numbers and details that from obscure invoices, and you have to move an account. So I think it's buying a house these days might be easier than switching energy provider, but he did it anyway. So look, I buy that there is a problem, and I buy the thesis here. What does it mean for business? What does it mean for consumers? Where they see the opportunity, basically the opportunity is that not only when I call a help center, I talk to a computer, but the caller also is a computer. So you're going to have agents talking to agents, which I think it's hilarious. So then the question becomes, when an agent talks to agent, and let's say it goes off track for a second because of a glitch, I think that's hilarious, and we'll see these endless loops and hilarious videos coming out of that. Anyway, they talk about how to build those agents, etc., where they see the opportunity. And then, of course, the good old market maps. Of course, why don't they do a market map? A little bit like that. So, agents look for local businesses, for healthcare, for insurance. Okay, so yeah, in the States, most probably most phone calls are wasted, like, waiting for insurance companies. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's a similar problem in this market, but training, restaurants, hospitality, and so forth. So interesting. What's your take?
Yeah, look, I feel like if we take a step back and we go, what's our one limited resource we have in our lives? It's time, right? And so if we can use AI, and I think this is where people will go, do I want to, like your exact example with your brother-in-law? Shout out to your brother-in-law as well. But I think the thing here is we're gonna use technology to improve. This is what I've always said for years, for 20 years when I had my first business. Technology is there to improve the quality of our life, and I think with AI we have this opportunity to do the stuff that get it to do the stuff we don't want to do and spend the time. And I think the AI agents, and I think this is maybe something we should go into deeper, maybe have one real deep dive into this whole topic around where we see this going. But this is definitely one way we see around the calls. I think it may even just end up being there, like you say, there's going to be agents representing us legally. There'll be, agents doing the calls to change providers, constantly looking at these things. This is where these next business models are going to come up and work towards these sort of arbitrage models of you getting the best power, the best, whatever it is. I think we're going to have people being able to do that. And then the question is, are those providers of those services have to, they're going to be either become commoditized, or will they allow, all it takes is for people to be able to switch easily, and it'll change the whole market in a lot of ways. And so I think this is going to be big.
What do you think about voice agents for therapy? I don't know. I need to try to understand what people are talking about. What, are you depressed? Are you calling and talk to a computer? I mean, does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Yeah, but look, it's just about acceptability of this. And that's why I'm saying is the more you use it, the more you get comfortable with it.
Give me an example of a parallel example of any type of service that people are okay replacing completely a human that is in that space.
But look at all the demos by OpenAI with 4.0, their 4.0 model. It's all about talking to
Yeah.
So we see Google doing the same thing. We talked about those things. So we can see this happening. This is on the cards.
Okay, no. I'm asking specifically about therapy. Do you like the idea that it sounds to me, I haven't checked those products, but it sounds to me like it's a replacement for psychologists of some type.
Yeah,
So
or
I'm trying to figure
yeah.
it out. Like, is the thesis here is that, listen, I've got a psychological problem. I'm sad, angry, depressed, whatever it is, and I'm gonna talk to a computer, and you think that's gonna catch? I find it hard to believe.
Well, I'm looking at something that we've talked about. I think can help in all different areas to give people support. And sometimes people don't want to go and talk to people, but want to feel like it's someone that has empathy. And I think voice adds another element of empathy that you don't get from just a chat.
I think an augmentation of a human delivered service, yes. A replacement for a human delivered service, I find it hard, because let's just take the counter perspective. Why would I pay someone to talk to a computer if I can literally talk to ChatGPT like for free, or Google Gemini, whatever the free service? So it's like, where's the actual market here? So there has to be some added value.
Yeah. So there's the guardrails. There's also there's a whole range of things that you can take, which is being done manually now, and digitize that and offer that service. So it's IP that is around that I think is the key thing. It's not just a large language model that you're talking to. There's a whole range of things that are being trained, and you're kind of working within the realms of what's acceptable, what's the right way to do these things. And so otherwise it's pretty dangerous. You're just going to I've seen quite a few things in this space. Look, I think time will tell whether people will adopt that, but I actually think more and more we're starting to see people try these things, people start to use these things. And look, if we project out 5 years from now, I think this will be reasonably acceptable for a certain part of the population, without a doubt. I don't have a doubt. about that. If you look at how people communicate, people don't talk on the phone that much. People text or message or chat. If I'd love to see the stats on that, on how many people actually make phone calls now compared to before. Most people, send text in a lot of ways, and I think different generations, it'd be interesting to see what that is. And it's funny. One of the talks last week that we had at that Inspire conference was around how different generations use their. And it was a shout out to Ian McDonald who gave this talk, was talking about the future, superpowers, but talked about different generations using their thumb differently. So because people type with their phone, so different categories of people have different percentages of how they use thumbs. So which means that buttons now need to start being redesigned because people are using their thumbs instead of their fingers. So things start to change. Like I say, I think it's pretty interesting. I think we've covered that a bit. I think we need to do a deep dive into this whole area around agents and how that might play out, including voice, video, the use cases, the infrastructure, all of those sorts of things would be cool to discuss. So maybe we can kind of do that on one of the weeks coming up.
I like it. So the other message in the message here, the medium is message. I like this new app called Gamma.app, a new medium for presenting ideas powered by AI. So do you know these guys? Have you seen this sandwich video they called? This guy, his name is Adam. They maybe 10 years ago started doing like the video ads for all the cool tech products. Like it's famously Square, a lot of others, but Square was the one that got them into major fame. So they're doing quirky video for a product. They end up doing a presentation about the product, but it's like self-referencing. They're doing a presentation about their own presentation and a video about their own. It's interesting. Anyway, cool idea. You just tell the AI what you want to present about, and it builds the slide deck for you. So interesting to ask the question: how much of this thesis that we're reading is regurgitating from a large language model versus some, thoughtful putting words together by some very, thoughtful person at A16Z. I think they should disclose that bit as well.
Well, so this is one of the points in the book that I was talking about, is to say, look, we have this stage right now where people are using this technology, but people are not disclosing it or hiding it, or they're using a combination. Now, the question is when it's all AI generated, people view the content maybe as not being as legitimate as you writing it, or not as valuable. So I think it's interesting to go, this is what people are doing. And one of the interesting topics as well is about organizations. People in organizations are doing this. Now, whether they're doing it officially, they're doing it on their own personal accounts or their phones, that's what's happening. And people are worried about the fact that if I tell my employer I'm doing this and I can do my job better, am I going to lose my job? So if you're, I know you have some meetings this morning with lawyers around AI law and going, well, if you can do that, should I be, is this going to take away from my job, or is this going to, should I charge less? Or there are all these implications. I think without a doubt, though, every industry is going to have this dilemma. And I think when there's still early stage where people are using it but not telling everyone, they're not disclosing it fully, I think the law as well will come in and say, if you are using this, we need to say it. But once again, we're already doing this previously. We're Googling things and we're using these resources and we're constructing things. We're using, Grammarly. Oh, do we have to disclose that Grammarly is helping me? And so I think we're already doing these things now. It's just going to another level of where it can be all written or it can augment. And that's the way I'm using things now. Like I say, I've got a co-pilot in every part of what I do now. I think it's valid. It's still my ideas and I'm refining. And I think that's a valid way to work. And if you're not working that way, I would say you're kind of behind the times, really. And I think you can achieve a lot more, being an AI first company. And I'd like to think that's what we're doing. I'd like to think that's where most organizations will go to eventually. And I think there's this period of the companies that adopt this and go forward with that are going to be the ones that thrive and the ones that are more profitable and the ones that have, a big future. I think if you don't, it's going to be hard to compete. Now, let's cover off a couple of quick things happening here. I think, like I say, I want to do a deep dive in what we were just discussing there, because I think it's a whole interesting topic of where we could be going. But just a kind of shout out about a couple of events happening. We've got a Dazed and Diffused in Melbourne on the 16th of June, so in a couple of weeks. Tickets are out there. So I don't know, we'd love to see anyone in Melbourne that's interested come along to that event. Tickets go pretty quick, so if not already, but we'd love to see you come along if you can. And we're looking to host those, other parts of Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne and Canberra, actually. We're hoping to have one in Canberra in July. So hopefully we can make that all happen. And then the other interesting thing that's happening right now is the Build Club is having a hackathon, a global hackathon, that's starting on Friday, ranging from places like Singapore and Vietnam and Sydney and Melbourne and Canberra as well. And so we're going to get involved hopefully a little bit here. But I think going to have over 400 people participating, doing things in there, and it's great to see that happening in the community at those very early stages. People coming up with ideas, and builds on some of these concepts that we're talking about. People are going to come up with some interesting ideas, and so they're always the starting points of where some great businesses can come out of, or just even solutions that people can adopt in their own businesses. Yeah, I think it's good to see that happening in the ecosystem. More and more events, more and more things happening around AI, generative AI, and otherwise. So yeah, I hate wrapping up. I'm always sad to wrap up, actually. Yeah, but look, that's another week in AI. Dror and I, we've been discussing how we end the show. We never know how to end the show. So, Dror, you came up with the idea of let's ask ChatGPT, or let's ask one of the models how to end the show. So I'm going to let you end the show today, Heath.
Yeah, I'll do this week's. So thanks for being with us for this week's episode of This Week in AI. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time for more exciting development in the world of artificial intelligence.